Okay. We will call the special school board meeting for Monday, September 9th, 2019 to order, and I will have Heidi do the roll call and verification of quorum.
Mr. Ebel?
Here.
Ms. Baker?
Here.
Ms. Fang?
Here.
Ms. Portson?
Here.
Ms. Rano?
Here.
Ms. Scott?
Here.
Mr. Wade?
Present.
Ms. Erler?
Here.
We have all 8 for quorum.
Excellent. We will stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4, public comments. Is there anyone here that would like to address the board with respect to a public comment on the special school board meeting agenda? No one is present. Item 5, general. A, interviews of candidates for school board. I'm going to explain the process for the interviews tonight. We have, again, I want to thank everyone who has put an application in. It is so wonderful that we have so many qualified applicants who have indicated an interest in the board. We will ask if all of you can come up. By alphabetical order, we're going to have you draw a number, and then we'll have you seated in the number. We have them noted the number that you receive. What we will then be doing is we will be asking you the 4 questions that we provided you prior to tonight's meeting. The number 1 will answer the first question first, and we will go to the end, and then we will have the second question. We will start with the candidates who's in the number 2 position, and we will again do round robin again till we finish the 4 questions. I also want to thank all of our board members and all of our candidates for being flexible. We had initially scheduled these interviews for last Friday. We had a school board member who wound up with an emergency, and so we did change the meeting time for tonight because we felt it really important that all board members were here for this important decision to be made. Because of that, though, one of our candidates had a conflict, is out of state on a pre-planned vacation, is unable to be here this evening. Because of this unique situation, we have allowed that candidate to provide responses in writing to the 4 questions. Her name will be drawn as all of the other candidates' names are drawn, and when it is her turn to provide a response, Heidi will be reading that candidate's response. Again, this is a unique situation because we did do that reschedule, and so we felt that it was important to allow that candidate the opportunity to have the be able to respond. So if all of you want to come up, and Heidi will have you draw a number.
That's the first test. Get yourself in alphabetical order.
Number 6. All right. Right here at the spot.
You're gonna go just backwards now. Bet you're number 4.
That would not be good. We did check these out.
I think this is for our notes.
All right. You're Christina.
Janet, you're number 3.
I'll do it. Oh, lights are good. Thanks, Dan. One. believe you're missing one person, so could I ask you to just switch down one and we'll put you right there. Please put yours. Thank you for your patience.
Guess we can-
When you move in one, or does that not matter? or-
No, that's right, because I believe it's.
Oh, you're here. I'm sorry. I didn't.
This one
thinking-
needs to-
that's fine.
This number,
I'll bet it's
it's the 2. All
Okay.
right.
Okay. So we have all the applicants, and I'm going to turn the questioning over to Superintendent Craig Gerlich, who will be reading the questions for this evening. He will be starting with number 1, and he will be starting with Ed, and again, then number 2, Sue Kadranowitz, who is the candidate who is not here tonight, will be the first person to respond then to question number 2.
And if I could ask you to keep your responses to 2 minutes. Heidi's going to monitor that, and if we get close to 2 minutes or at 2 minutes, she'll give me a peace sign, and I'll say wrap up, please. The first question will go to Ed. Please tell us about yourself, your educational experience, and your work experience.
Sure. My name's Ed Morganroth. Our family's lived in Plover since we moved up here from Illinois in 1995. We've got 2 kids that went through the Stevens Point school system, and seem to be on the right track. So they're both out of college. That's good. College is paid for, largely. So that's my family background. Educationally, I've got a bachelor's degree in finance from Northern Illinois University in DeKalb and an MBA from the University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana. As far as work, I've been in the insurance industry since 1987. I'm one of the claims directors now at Nationwide Insurance. Work up in Wausau. We're a personal lines company out of Columbus, Ohio, but our office here is in Wausau. But I deal with claims matters, financial matters, boring insurance stuff. So that's in a nutshell. That's me.
Thank you. And Heidi is going to respond for Sue.
I have lived in Stevens Point all my
Heidi,
life.
go into the mic, please.
This is Sue's response. I have lived in Stevens Point all my life. I attended and graduated from the Stevens Point Public Schools, and I am an active member of the community. I am optimistic, well-organized, hardworking, and I am approachable. I completed my bachelor's degree at UWSP, and I have attended numerous seminars and training on education. I served the district for 25 years in several capacities. I retired from the Stevens Point School District in January of 2019. My experience in the district includes secretary at Buildings and Grounds, head secretary at Ben Franklin Junior High, and executive assistant to the superintendent and school board secretary. Prior to joining the district, I worked in private industry as an administrative assistant at Steel King Industries.
Christina.
Yes. I grew up in Green Bay. I graduated from high school there, Green Bay West High School. After which I've gone to UWSP. I have my bachelor's degree in mathematics with a minor in computer information systems. When I was a senior at UWSP, I was hired on as an intern at Travel Guard, and I've been with the company ever since. After I graduated, I was offered a full-time position in the actuary department, and since then I've made a few different moves over the years, but right now I am the business analytics manager. My job is to take a whole lot of information and try to be concise and definitive in making recommendations and decisions using data. I am married. I have 2 daughters. One has yet to start school. The other is at Roosevelt. My husband is a full-time teacher at SPASH, and we have been here pretty much since I started college at UWSP.
Thank you. Shannon?
I was born in the Madison area. I grew up in the Northwoods. Attended high school there. I spent 1 year at Madison, undeclared, taking whatever I wanted to, which was glorious, but expensive. So when my boyfriend at the time needed a roommate, I transferred to UWSP and spent 4 years here, getting eventually an English degree and the heftiest music history minor that you could ever get. My husband had already graduated, so I stayed in the area once I graduated, and we have been here for 20 years now, I think. I started working at 12. My mother owned a bookstore, so I worked for her from 12 to 19 when she closed the store, which was an interesting experience in a lot of ways. We have 3 kids. For this one amazing year, they are all at one school, all still in elementary. After I graduated, I signed up for the temp company because I liked food, and an English degree didn't really get me anywhere. And I ended up working in telecommunications for 4 years, and I really enjoyed it. My oldest son was born prematurely, and while I didn't intend to quit work long term, that's what happened. So I've been a stay-at-home mom for almost 12 years now.
Thank you. Nathan?
Hello, everyone. I'm Nathan Knitt. My background, I've moved around the state growing up, wherever my dad's been working. He's been in education for about 40 years now. He's the superintendent down at the Partyville Area School District, where I graduated from high school in 2010. After 4 years at Carroll University, I graduated with a Bachelor's of Science in Actuarial Science. And from there, I went out east to Boston to work for Liberty Mutual for a year in their actuary department, but decided that I really missed home. And so luckily an opportunity at Century came up, and in 2015 I moved back to the great state of Wisconsin, and I've been at Century since then, working in the transportation department, specifically pricing, so pricing insurance for semi-drivers, and I've really enjoyed living here, working in the community, and being part of the community. I'm also actually right now enrolled at UW-Whitewater in their school business management program. So I've had the pleasure to talk to Tom Owens here, to learn the ropes, to understand the educational terminology. But again, coming from an education background, my dad is the superintendent, my sister is a music teacher down in Boston. So a lot of the stuff has come naturally for me, and so I'm looking forward to talking to the board more tonight.
Thank you. Kelly?
Hi, my name is Kelly Boggs. I grew up in Stevens Point, went to high school here at SPASH, went to UWSP, and after I graduated, moved down to Madison. Lived down there for about 7 years, was in the mortgage industry. And then around 2008, when the mortgage industry changed in our economy, I went back for my MBA. Have that in healthcare administration and business, obviously. And then when my husband and I got married and decided we wanted to raise our family here. So we moved back about 9 years ago. I did a fellowship at the Marshfield Clinic in education administration. So worked with graduate medical education, so medical residents. And then for almost 3 years, I worked with the MCW regional campus in Wausau for the medical students as well, trying to get into medical school and looking at more of a regional focus, bringing students, especially like first-year college students into that program. It's a unique program. It's a 3-year program. Did that for 3 years, and then a year and a half ago, I took a new position. So I was working for Ascension for 6 years, and then now I've been with Aspirus for about 18 months. My job is director of network engagement. So I work for the Aspirus Network. We do a lot of the insurance contracting, but also a lot of the relationship development with the private practices. So that's my role, as well as patient satisfaction and some of the other elements that have to do with healthcare, quality, cost savings, and provider satisfaction as well. I have 2 boys in the district. They go to Bannock. They're in 4th and 5th grade. So we know we have a long future with the school district. And I'm really proud of what we offer. So I think I'm excited to be a part of this.
Thank you. And G.
Okay, my name is G. Pope. I have a BS from River Falls in biology and chemistry teaching. I have an MS from UWSP in general education and an MA in educational administration from Marion College. In 1985, my wife and I moved here, and I started teaching at Assumption in Rapids, and she started teaching in this school district. And in 1992, I started teaching here. I taught here for 20 years, chemistry at SPASH, and my wife was here all that time as a special ed teacher. We retired in 2010, and since then I taught for 6 years chemistry at UWSP, and during that time and up till currently I am a student teacher supervisor for UWSP. I've been in many schools. My area is, including Stevens Point, central Wisconsin to the east and northeast. So I've been in and out of many schools in that time, so I get a chance to get around and talk to a lot of people, things like that. Okay, so that's it.
Thank you. The second question will actually begin with Sue Petronowitz. What unique value will you bring as a member of the school board?
And Sue's answer is, I was an integral part of the recent policy update and new board member manual. I understand the budget and the accounting system. I've also have training in Robert's Rules, understand state statutes, and I understand the operation of a board meeting and taking minutes. I have a vast knowledge of the district and the community. I have a strong network of community members.
And next will be Christina.
Hi. I feel like I would be a good candidate for the school board because I have the ability to wear many hats. I am a parent of children, well, a child currently and a future student here in the Stevens Point district, so I can understand the necessary steps that people need to take in order to accommodate different learning styles. I also am employed by one of the larger employers here in Stevens Point, as well as being a manager, so I understand the importance of having a strong school district, not only to create the best employees of the future, but also to attract recruits from other areas to bring them to Stevens Point and add to our already diverse culture. As a taxpayer, I understand the importance of making sure that we're fiscally responsible in how we make decisions. And in general, with my knowledge set, I have the ability to take large amounts of information, see trends, and provide direction on the best way to move forward, considering all different perspectives.
Thank you. Shannon?
I firmly believe and have believed for a long time that education should be that it should include the students, the staff of the school, and the parents. And as that's my belief, I have tried to also live that. And because I ended up being a stay-at-home mom, I've spent a lot of time in the schools. I've volunteered when I was able. I had 3 kids in 5.5 years, so sometimes that gets a little chaotic. But I've served as PTO president for the last 4 years at our elementary school. And sometimes parents, sometimes staff will talk to a PTO president or someone in a moderate position like that, whereas they might not want to bring something to administration. And so I was, and I always included in my agendas questions or concerns by parents and by staff. And because of that, I was able to see at the ground level in our elementary schools what some of the concerns are. And then in attending board meetings or sending emails, talking to people in the administration, learn for myself why we do things certain ways. And then also helped to return that information back to the elementary school so that everyone has a better understanding. I was also able to be part of the referendum committee and really develop the understanding of why we needed to do that and what the result of not passing the referendum and passing the referendum would be. When I do attend the board meetings or watch them, I sometimes feel like while we have 9 elementary schools, the schools where we have more students get more attention. So my ability and continue attendance in the elementary schools is something that I feel like I bring to the table.
Thank you. Nathan?
As I mentioned with the first question, one unique aspect about me is my indirect association with education, that sitting around the family dinner table, I hear stories from a teacher's perspective, I hear stories from an administrator's perspective. I forgot to mention as well, my mom was an aide in the schools that I attended, so I hear it from an aide's perspective. And so getting all these different perspectives, I realized that it truly is a group effort to have a successful school district like we have here in Stevens Point. And as a board member, I would want to make sure that I am enabling and that we as the board are enabling our administrators, our staff, and our students to achieve their full potential. I don't have all of the answers. I'll be straightforward with that, but I'm not afraid to ask questions. I'm not afraid to lean on the expertise of those that the school has charged with leading us into the future. So again, really emphasizing that, yeah, the background, I work in insurance, I have an analytical background, but that I also have the kind of the people aspect, knowing educators, growing up, and interacting with teachers here in the community, interacting with administration as well.
Thank you. Kelly?
So I really think that education is, fundamental, obviously, and it's really the foundation for everything. It's something that nobody can take away from you once you have. And so I think my philosophy is never stop learning, continuing to grow, continuing to develop myself. I was first generation college, so coming into education and not knowing what to do, not knowing how to apply for college, or not knowing how to, I don't think I mentioned, but I do have an MBA, and not knowing even how to apply for those things. I mean, I think that those are some of the areas that we can help with. I try to volunteer as much as I can to different groups, especially first generation college students. One of my projects when I was in my fellowship with Marshfield Clinic was working with the university and talking to those first generation potentially healthcare careers and talking to them about the different potential jobs that they could find within that. I'm also involved in a leadership development program, so just thinking about growing our leaders, regardless of what type of work they're doing. I mean, leadership is something that you continue to develop as well. So I'm also connected through social media with a lot of parents within the district. So there's parents pages that I am constantly responding to different areas and able to ask questions, or I try to be a resource for others. So that's what I feel like I bring.
Thank you. G.
Well, I believe the things that I would bring to the school board is a really intricate knowledge of how the district works. I've been here for a long time. In fact, believe it or not, I've worked in every building in the school district in my capacity as a teacher, a coach. I substituted for 1 year after I retired, a parent, and supervisor of student teachers. In fact, we have a couple of my student teachers are working in the district right now, and I have a couple at PJ's right now. So I bring that knowledge that I believe I know education from the bottom up. I'm able to go into every building and I know somebody there. I can sit down and talk to some employee, teacher, principal, custodian, things like that. I've had past experiences with them. I had 3 boys that came through the district. They've been graduated for a while now, and I'd say as a parent with 3 boys in the school district, I got to know some principals really well. I spent a lot of time in the principal's office. So I got to know that part of it also. So I believe my unique value would be that I know the district, I believe, inside and out. And I look at education as a from the human side of education. What happens in the classroom, what happens at the schools, things like that. And to me, talking to people at the schools, I always ask questions. I always walk around, look at people, look at what's happening in the classrooms. And that firsthand knowledge, I believe, would aid the school board in some of the things they do and some of the decisions they make.
Thank you. And Ed?
Excuse me. I guess my, well, some things unique, some things not that unique. I've got some board experience here. I was on the Stevens Point School Board from 2007 to 2010. And over the last 10 or 12 years, I've been on some of the board committees as a citizen member. I think every committee I've been on, I believe I've served at least 1 year as a probably 6+ years. I'll be on the conservative side. I think my business and financial experience and analytical skills are useful in a lot of school board matters, district matters, and I also understand and try to appreciate all the different constituencies. And you know, there are, as we all know, there's a number of them, and in the past we've had some board members that seem to be heavily tilted toward one or the other. Or I shouldn't say one or the other, but one of the 5 or 6, or 2 of the 5 or 6. And I think it's important to recognize and appreciate all the from students to parents to taxpayers to teachers to other other staff members and the community, et cetera. Lastly, I think it's important to be able to have good working relationships and be a good communicator with both other board members and other administrators, other parents, et cetera. Have good communication skills, and I try to do that as well. So that's what I have to say there.
Thank you. And Christina, you'll begin with the 3rd question. List the top 2 issues you feel the district is facing today.
Sure. I feel like the top one is the most obvious. The fundings that the state gives us is just not necessarily enough to support what's necessary in order to keep the school district running, which caused everybody to have to go to referendum, not just Stevens Point, but all over the state. So by going to referendum, you have a mandate from the community in order to fulfill the things that you said you were going to. In order to do that, you have to make a lot of decisions, analyze a lot of information, make some tough calls. And my background allows me to be able to analyze information and process it in a way that makes sense to move forward. Being responsible with that money also allows you to, should the issue come up again, go to referendum again with the community's trust, knowing that you guys did the best that you could with the information and money that you had available to you to fulfill the promises that were made. So I feel like that's the most important one for right now. Long term, my second answer to the question is, as students' needs change, the way they learn needs to adapt with us as we move forward. The way that kids learn today is so very different from even the way I learned or my parents learned. And instead of being reactive to what we see going on, we need to be proactive to understand what the student needs and meet them at their level, not what we think is the best way based on our experience. And I think that that's definitely something that going forward we need to keep an eye on, is make sure that we're meeting the students at their level to educate them the best way that works for them instead of just our preconceived notions of what would work best for them.
Thank you. Shannon?
I think the first thing probably, is the referendum. We passed it, it's great, we have this money, but now we have people watching how it's actually going to get spent versus what we said we'd do. And I think so far, it's been well publicized what we've done. You've done a great job at the board meetings of informing the public. The EA is getting the dental insurance, the special ed staff being brought up to the market average, stuff like that I think, it really strikes home with at least our staff and hopefully parents too that understand that for what teachers do, they're woefully underpaid, which we all understand, but now, and there's the obvious things. You can see the buildings being worked on. Sarah's done a great job of having communication out there about that kind of stuff. Now it's the little onesie-twosie things that people are wondering, well, now they have all this money. Are we going to see that? Are we going to see funding for G&T curriculum? What is going into sports? What is going into arts? And I think, not everyone understands what going to referendum got us and how that money is acquired. And, many people think that we just have this millions of dollars sitting there that we're going to play with now. So I think keeping an eye on that, how we're spending it, how it's being perceived as being spent. And then the other thing I think is mental health, not just for our students, for our staff. With the extra 20 minutes last year, what I saw in the schools with some of the second step programs and other things that are being done at the beginning and end of the days have a lot of value. We have mental health professionals at our schools, but there's one person to hundreds of students. They're not full-time, we're sharing them between buildings. How does that affect their mental health? So I think that that's something that needs to be looked at more, and some changes need to be made.
Thank you. Nathan?
The first issue that I feel is most important for the school district is identifying where the student enrollment trends currently are and where they're going. Historically speaking, looking at the last 10, 15 years, Stevens Point has seen a decline, but lately it's been stabilizing. A lot of the state aid is tied to student enrollment. And so if we are seeing a decline in the future, predicting one, we need to get out in front of it so we don't have any budgetary issues going forward. So again, really just identifying that. If it's something that we can head off, that would be excellent. Luckily, we have a lot of business partners in the community, so we have a good sense of how the local economy is doing. If one of the employers is looking to change their business plan, we can identify that in advance and properly plan for that. The second issue that I would like to highlight is maintaining the good community relations that we do have. Being a transplant to the community, living here for about 4 years, I feel very connected to the community. The referendum push, I felt like I was part of that. I knew what was going on. I felt like I was appreciated, like my thoughts mattered. I went to the ballot box very informed, and I think continuing that momentum, showing off what we have to offer, that we should be proud of what we have. Everyone in the state right now is experiencing different issues, but right now Stevens Point is looking pretty good, and it's a bragging point for the community. So continuing what we have, continuing to trust our leaders in administration, trusting the school board, trusting the teachers, and keeping those lines of communication open.
Thank you. Kelly?
I think the two areas that are probably what the district is facing are infrastructure. So to my other candidate's point that with the referendum and getting that money fixing some of the delayed maintenance on some of the projects that were identified, I think is really important. I worked for Johnson Controls for a couple years, and we worked with performance contracts. So taking that and doing those energy and operational savings on the front end so you can reap the benefits long term, I really thought that was smart for the district to do that, and excited that that's where we are spending some of the money. And then also hiring and retaining good staff. I mean, I think that's always important. We want the best and brightest. We want those who continue to challenge us and push us and our students. So making sure that we have competitive salaries, making sure that we offer competitive benefits as well is going to be important. So I think as we continue to do that, funding is always a source of concern, and making sure that we can invest back in our staff is really important.
Thank you. G.
The thing that made me want to run for the school board was during the last referendum, I started looking at some of the data, and I was shocked to see that we are one of the lowest cost per student in central Wisconsin among lots of districts. Not just low, but very low. The last referendum helped us out a lot. We were at about 8,700 per student. I don't have to tell you those things, but I think we're going to be up about 9,400, somewhere around there in the coming year. The state average is 11,000. DC Everest spends 10,006. Now, some people may look at that as a good thing. I look at that as you get what you pay for, and we've taken a great step forward in increasing the pay for our staff, but only to average pay in central Wisconsin. I think if we want the best staff, we need to pay them better than the average. But that entails another referendum, and that'll be coming. We're going to have another referendum, I think, but it's not going to be in the next couple of years because I don't think the public is ready for it. But we need to get those numbers up to make people want to come here and make people want to teach here. The second thing, in line with that, I would advocate having a regular review of employee reimbursements so we can avoid the thing that happened this year where we have to take a huge leap to catch up. And we should get out ahead on pay. Another thing is facilities usage. We have a school, Jackson Elementary, which sits largely empty. We need to figure out what we can do with that to save the district money and to make full usage of our facilities. Let's see. And along with that is, I think one of the biggest jobs a school board could do is, right now for us, is getting ready for down the road, what are we going to do because I think we will have a referendum. How can we get the public to trust the school board to pass that referendum?
Thank you. Ed.
I would say the two biggest things in my opinion. Number one is continue to work on the strategy for the hiring and retention. How are we going to hire and retain the top quality teachers and support staff, and obviously especially in the not limited to, but especially in the STEM areas, where the demand is a lot higher for experienced teachers, or maybe even for straight out of school. But as everybody knows, we have to have as other candidates have said, we have to have the top quality staff. It's maybe we need to get creative, whether it's looking at bringing in people from outside Wisconsin. That can involve some money. I don't know that that's cost effective, but we need to consider some different strategies there. Number two, now that the referendum has passed, we have the district has at least sufficient funding, and I acknowledge and agree with what G said, and perhaps some others, is that there's going to be some funding challenges in terms of pay for staff. But that aside, the referendum seems to be well in hand, and the superintendent and the staff are monitoring things, and the board is. But with that on track, we need to look at, the district needs to look at, where do we need to boost the educational outcomes? Are there schools or areas where there's challenges, and is the district, accomplishing in terms of educational outcomes, whether it's ACTs or number of people taking AP classes or kids getting into some kind of a college, whether it be 2-year or tech or 4-year, are we where we need to be and want to be from K through 12?
Thank you. And we will finish up with Sue.
Sue Kudrenowitz's responses are preparing students for the modern workforce and community partnerships.
The next question, we're going to start with Shannon. Are you aware of any conflict of interest you may have with service on the school board?
I am not.
Nathan?
Excuse me, I'm not aware of any conflicts of interest either.
Kelly?
No.
No.
G?
Very otherwise.
Ed?
Sue has indicated I am not aware of any issues that may cause a conflict.
Christina?
My husband is a full-time teacher at Spash, so I understand there would be certain things I would need to recuse myself from when things according to salary and benefits would come up associated with him. I also work for AIG, so any insurance RFPs that might have AIG as the underwriter, I would probably need to recuse myself from as well. Although I think that that would be very unlikely.
That's everyone. And then Nathan, you're going to have the last question. If you are appointed to the school board, is it your intention to run for the seat in the April 2020 election?
Currently, right now, I'm a little up in the air. If selected for the school board and I am a good fit and the board and I share the same vision and the way to advance the Stevens Point School District, I would entertain an option to run for re-election in 2020. But on the flip side, we have a great panel of candidates here, and any one of us would be good candidates to run in 2020. So again, my official answer, it's up in the air right now.
Thank you. Kelly?
Yes. No, yes, I would plan to run. I think there's so much value in continuity with the board. I work with the board right now, and I mean, our goal is to maintain that continuity for just working together, and it takes a while to get to know each other. I think there's a lot of benefit in I guess that's what intrigued me about this position is the ability to kind of tip your toe in the water and check it out for the next couple months until it's official for a 3-year term. So.
Thank you. G?
Well, whether I'm picked or not, I plan to run again in 2020. It's not that easy to get rid of me.
Ed?
I plan on running, or plan on serving if I were to become appointed or run, I should say, in 2020, with the small caveat I've got there's a small chance that if work becomes too demanding, I'd have to consider. I don't want to be the politician that promises, no new taxes and then has to go back on it. For people that are old enough to remember that. But so I would intend on running again, but I'm not going to promise 100%.
Thanks. And Sue?
And Sue indicates it is my intention to run for the seat in the April 2020 election. Thank you for your consideration.
Christina?
I would agree that continuity of the position would be necessary and that I would run for the seat should I get chosen.
Thank you. And Shannon?
I assume that I would, and if I am picked and, things go well and things happen as I believe they do in the board from the meetings I've attended and watched, that I would in the spring.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that concludes the questions. I don't vote. That said, we've got some really strong candidates, and I want to say thank you. If I can work with anyone that's appointed tonight, I'm very impressed with the quality of candidate that we have coming forward. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you. So what we are going to do is we are going to now commence the voting. We'll have the candidates head out to the seating area. And I want to explain both to the board and the candidates and the public our process of voting. We will be looking for a majority vote for a candidate. And so we have 8 board members. That means that a candidate will need to receive 5 votes. If on the first ballot, we have a candidate that receives 5 votes, that candidate will be appointed as the new board member. If we have a split vote, for example, and it gets math, but I want to do math, we got some actuaries, so. So if we wind up with a vote of 4-3-1, the top 2 vote getters, the 4 and 3, would remain, and we would revote on those 2 vote getters until, and the rest would be dismissed until, again, we have 1 candidate that receives 5 votes. If we wind up with, on the first vote, a 4-2-2, those 3 candidates would remain in the ballot, and again, we would continue to vote in the way I've described until we have a 5 vote. So the bottom line is, mathematically, if all things are equal, if we have a 4-1-1-1-1, then you're all in the running for the next vote. And we will, again, be looking to ensure that the integrity of those numbers continue, again, as we work through each vote. The board will be doing written ballots, but we will be initialing those ballots at the end of the vote. All of those ballots are public record, so they are accessible by anyone that would like to look at them to see how that vote occurred. We will be doing the paper ballots. Sue will be collecting them. She will
Or
be.
Heidi.
Excuse me, Heidi, sorry. Heidi, I looked right at you. Heidi will be tabulating, and then she will announce the vote in each of the votes that the board will undertake. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay.
Please have a seat in the gallery then.
Make it quick. Nathan's dad, Steve, taught under me. How weird was Meg, can't you just put all the names and just draw one? You can't lose. Yeah, really. Oh my gosh, yes, we can't win. I can't lose, They're all wonderful.
I'm glad I don't have to.
Wow. Is she passing out ballots?
Yeah, Ann just ran to the restroom. We're gonna wait till she comes back.
Okay. So are we on a recess?
No, we're just in a
And a pause.
holding.
Holding pattern. This is better than having run for election, but it's not that great. It's hard. Hard thing.
It's a nice problem.
Yeah.
I don't know what you-
No, here, take this. Got a spectrum. This is really hard.
Just vote for the right one.
And who would that be, Chris?
The right one. Just the right one.
Oh, my goodness. I sure can't figure it out.
That's a good problem to have.
It is a great problem to have, but it's a problem.
Yeah, well, the numbers will tell.
First ballot.
Is there a discussion happening? We just put one? Just vote for one?
Just one. I can't put all 6 of them down there.
Dan, remind me to show you why I got on, but remind me to show you how. Are you picking them up?
I am.
All right. I'm doing it. Here. I'm just gonna pick a different one each time. Just. Wow.
Put in a pound, just.
Uh-huh. No, so when you
twice,
left out,
then-
I said to Meg, just put them all in a bowl and just pick one.
Jen, you've got like a whole list,
Mhm.
and you can pick up to 3.
Yeah, that's.
Third set of eyes, please.
Yes, yes. Remember the number 25 times for president.
I was not. That was one of the things that made me run.
But that was ridiculous.
That's when I was the board secretary. It's just
Heaven.
Terry Rothman. Yes. Would not back up.
And he won. Who was he running against?
Angel?
No,
Lynette?
yeah, I think so. You know, it wasn't.
Okay, the first round, Ed Morganroth received 4 votes, Christina Smith 2, and Kelly Boggs 2. So those individuals would be the 3 candidates for the next round. Ed Morganroth received 4, Christina Smith 2, and Kelly Boggs 2. Yep.
Thank you, ma'am. It wasn't. Is there a name?
Right.
No, that was just part of it, but they voted 25 kids. Terry Dickey. No, we got a tie, right?
In the second round, Ed Morganroth received 5, Kelly Boggs received 2, and Christina Smith received 1. So we do have a majority vote.
Want to thank all of the applicants for the position. I want to strongly, strongly encourage you to consider running for the election in 2020. This district is only as strong as the people who invest their time and effort into working with it. That's what creates the district. We are very blessed to have 8 incredibly qualified candidates who indicated an interest in being part of the school board. As all of you noted, there's a lot of work ahead for this district, and we can use all the help we can get. I also strongly encourage you to consider committee involvement, and I'm also going to put a plug in for the fact that we are going to be beginning initial planning with respect to our next 5-year strategic plan within the next year, and encourage you to consider being a part of that process, because that last time was a huge community effort, and next time will be as well. So thank you.
And I think we should give those candidates an applause because really appreciate it. Thank all of you.
And again, before you head out, thank you to all the candidates. It's difficult to stick your neck out there and put yourself out there and be interviewed and be subject to a vote like tonight. So again, we could have thrown a dart on a board as far as I'm concerned, and we would have landed on our feet. So thank you to everyone that interviewed tonight.
So we will move into item C, which is appointment of candidate to board committees, and I am looking for a motion to appoint Ed to go ahead.
Move to appoint Ed to the board, the vacant seat board?
No, to the
Business services.
Services.
yeah, Business Services
Oh,
Committee.
for that, okay. So you're
Can you
looking
restate your
for president?
Motion for the committee
Chair.
appointment.
Chair, you're talking about, right?
Nope, just
Just the, on
member of the
the,
committee.
Well, whatever, you said.
move to appoint a candidate to.
Moved, yeah, so moved, I guess is what I should say.
To Business Services.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and that's to appoint Ed to the Business Services Human Resources Committee. I will note that Ed has been serving as a citizen committee on that. And so that it leaves us with the 2 citizen committee vacancies, which we will be have the opportunity to address at the board meeting, next board meeting coming up. Any questions or comments on that? All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. So moved. Second.
Okay, all those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned.